Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gills, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome, glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure? It's cultist coffee. What makes it cultist coffee? I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it. Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Good morning, everyone. It is so good to see you here for the morning grind. I am happy that you are here. I've been having a good morning. I woke up, was at the desk here at 5 o'clock in the morning. I was trying to write some of the script for the Tales of Rabavania, but for some reason it wasn't coming. So I decided, let me just move to a different project. And so I've got something to show you. So I started to work some more on some of the Black Cipher stuff, trying to experiment with using the AI technology to try to be able to create some type of video or something. So I created, it's not quite finished yet, but I want to show it to you. I created an intro video, like a 90-second intro video for the Black Cipher, the paranormal world of horror. And so I was working on that this morning, and I was excited about that. Then I was... Then I went in to go take a shower and I completely lost track of time. That's why I've still got wet hair and everything this morning, but hey, that's all right. I'm feeling good and I hope you are too. Hey, James, good to see you. Draco is here this morning. Good morning, Mike Hansford. Good morning. Zero the Blade is here as well. So James, I was just talking to James in the comments. He said that he wants to purchase a copy of this because we are going to be looking at the Dark Sun campaign setting today. I really enjoyed that campaign setting last time. So we're going to pick up where we left off. I want to look at the rest of this book, which is like history and lore, over the next few days. But I also then want to go and take a look at the rules. It's got a separate rule book because this is the second edition boxed set. And I think we also will need to take a look at the complete Psionics handbook because we said it doesn't have Psionics rules in here, but they are available as part of the complete Psionics handbook or whatever exactly it was called. So we should take a look at that. So yes, if you are looking for this particular box set, I said that I looked up my order receipt, and the specific one that I am looking at is on Drive-Thru RPG. I got these PDFs on Drive-Thru RPG. Is the Dark Sun boxed set 2nd E. So if you are looking for it, that's the one that I'm going through here. Hey, Jose. Good, everyone. It's afternoon for me. I'm in Sweden. Good afternoon then over there in Sweden. It is fantastic to have you here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. Okay, so Jose says there are 2 different boxes for 2nd edition, and I think I noticed that on Drive-Thru. But this is the first one. Okay, so I'm looking at the first one here. So I think I did notice there were 2 different boxes. Greetings, George. And Sable Phoenix is here. Mike says swimming, swimming, swimming. That just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Okay, so what do we need to do here? I want to show you. Let's see. What do we do first here? I tell you what. Let's go to the morning messages. I need to fix the morning messages this afternoon because I need to do some updates for them. I want to talk about more stuff that we're doing here. Let's go to the morning messages. Then we'll sip. Then we'll take a look at the video I made this morning. Then we'll get into Dark Sun. All right, here we go. The Morning Grind is brought to you by World Anvil. For all the RPG players out there, World Anvil offers extensive character management, including character sheets, journals, inventory, and spellbook. Everything a player looking to lose themselves in their character could want. Use the code MORNINGGRIND to get 40% off yearly subscriptions. The Morning Grind is also brought to you by the Cool Name RPG. Cool Name will provide design aids, tools, and resources that make it easier than ever for third parties to make new compatible content. Support its development now on Kickstarter. And thank you for being here with me live on The Morning Grind. And if you're watching on replay, welcome to you as well. It's great to have you here. If you're enjoying The Morning Grind, please click the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. It will really help the channel grow, and I would be very thankful. We also have the Ravenkeep Discord server you can join if you would like to be a part of the community. All right, that's what you need to know. Let's get to the main topic. All right. Hey, we should go over there and check on the Cool Name RPG. He's got just over 24 hours remaining. I just put that link in there. That's being created by Mark Tassin. Mark is a friend of ours here on the channel. He created this, so he's got 35 hours to go and $22,500 for creating the Cool Name RPG. That was a response to the Wizards of the Coast OGL debacle. Of course, we've got Kobold Press creating the Black Flag project, which is 5th edition based. This is not 5th edition based, so we're looking at both of those. That's exciting. So please do check out the Cool Name RPG. And we're working with World Anvil on Wednesdays, and I've got a lot more I want to do about that with that. But if you are interested in World Anvil, please consider using the Morning Grind code this month to get in on 40% off, which is a really nice discount. 40% off for World Anvil, an annual subscription, if you are thinking about using it for running your games or creating your worlds, because World Anvil agreed to sponsor for a little bit of money the Morning Grind on Wednesdays because it's World Building Wednesdays. I was going to use World Anvil before they even made that offer, but they agreed to do that for 3 months. So they're probably going to be looking at their numbers and seeing if it's been worth it to them over the past 3 months to continue. So please do that. Hey, Pan Smith. Good morning. Glad to catch a live show. It's been moving. I've been moving big rocks all week. Excellent. Excellent. Productivity, moving big rocks. Wonderful. Good to see you. Andrew is here as well. Hello. Hello, Andrew. It's good morning, 03. Okay, so let me show you what I was working on this morning. Oh, I tell you, let's breathe and sip so we don't forget. So everybody got your beverage? Got your beverage? Do this with me. It'll help you out. 2 deep breaths, deep inhale, full exhale, and then take a sip of your favorite beverage. That's so much better. So much better. Okay, so let me show you what I was working on. I've been working on this channel over here called the Black Cipher. I'm going to put a link over here. Black Cipher YouTube channel. Because like I said, I don't really know what I should be working on because I don't know exactly what people are like. We've been working on Tales of Rabavania, the world of medieval rabbits that's kind of family friendly. But I think I want to try several different things to see what kinds of things people are most interested to watch, like on YouTube. So I created this Black Cipher YouTube channel. It's kind of a playground area, which is a world of paranormal horror. And I just want to see, hey, maybe I can use that as a testing ground to test out some of the different techniques and technologies and things like that to produce some videos and try to create a world, and then start applying those lessons learned from the Black Cipher over to Unspeakable Cults. That's the Cthulhu mythos one, to Theophany, which will tell the story of the fall of Lucifer, and then also the Tales of Rabavania channel. So this morning, since I just was not getting the script written and it just wasn't coming, I went over to work on this. And this is the intro video for the Black Cipher. So I want to know what you think. So I'm going to play this right here. It's not quite done yet, but I'm hoping to get it done this afternoon to upload it to the Black Cipher YouTube channel. So if you want to click the Black Cipher, that's where, please subscribe. That's where this will be going. So here is what the Black Cipher is and where I'm going with that kind of world.
Cipher is a fabled Rosetta Stone-like object which allows the translation of indescribably ancient texts written in alien languages, some of which date to before the Younger Dryas catastrophe, which ended the advanced civilizations on Earth and plunged the planet into the last ice age. Over the centuries, the Black Cipher has been rumored to have been in the possession of many infamous sorcerers and occult figures. Recently, the Vatican Astronomical Observatory intercepted a transmission believed to be of extraterrestrial origin. The astronomers who heard it went insane. The sole call for help from the receiving station was filled with horrifying and inhuman sound. When the Vatican gendarmes arrived, they found the astronomers were dead, having been hung with arcane runes carved into their flesh. After Vatican demonologists and exorcists cleansed the observatory, a Jesuit priest and professor of metaphysics applied the Black Cipher in the Vatican archives to the recording of the transmission. It successfully decoded the transmission, unlocking dread secrets of the universe sent to us from other intelligences. It revealed bleak truths of the paranormal and supernatural being. Truly, it seems the nature of humanity is darker and stranger than any have imagined. Though the Vatican tried to suppress the observatory massacre and their contact with extraterrestrial beings, the information has leaked from an unknown source. Now, the revelatory message of the Vatican transmission is being compiled into an encyclopedic text which is being released here on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel for releases of shorts and longer-form videos as we delve into the horrifying truth revealed by the Black Cipher.
So, it's not, like I said, it's not perfect yet, but I'm totally down with the way that's going. And like I said, that was kind of the first test, build upon, learn what to do, things like that. So I wrote that yesterday afternoon. I was like, hey, I need some kind of intro that explains what the Black Cipher is. And, it probably has a touch of Lovecraftian influences, but what I noticed as I was doing Journey to the Tree of Sorrows with David was that, you've got stuff that is all the Lovecraftian stories, but I think you've got some stuff that's much more fantasy oriented, dark fantasy. And then you've got other things that are more things that are like sci-fi. And we were trying to integrate those, and I guess, it can be done because they're not perfectly integrated in his stories anyway. But I was thinking, well, maybe you just leave the fantasy over here. And I was thinking, I've got some stories that kind of fit with the dark fantasy stuff, and then some stuff that fits more with the paranormal sci-fi kind of stuff. And so maybe just separate those kinds of things. Not that I need infinite worlds to build over here, but I like having a few different things to go. Mike Hansford says, we'll probably get more of the darker material to hit up on YouTube. You need a family-friendly channel or site to promote the Rabavania videos. Well, Tales of Rabavania is going to have its own channel. But I think that because I want just the stories and stuff like that to be on each one of the different channels. So I can't do a million different YouTube channels anyway. That's why all of my live stuff, all of the kinds of stuff we're doing is on this channel right here. But the stories and the different worlds, I want to put all of that on a different channel. So Tales of Rabavania stories will be on their own channel. We'll still do the world building over here, but the stories will be on their own channel. So we'll see how that goes. But I think that you're right that the Black Cipher, Unspeakable Cults, and Theophany, I think will actually do better here on YouTube in general. It just so happens that I started with the Tales of Rabivania because I had been writing dark stuff, the Journey to the Tree of Sorrows. I wanted to change over to something lighter. So it's good to have that too. But now I'm kind of interested in going into something a bit darker again. So actually, I kind of think that you're right, that maybe some of these others will actually be pick up on YouTube a bit more. Zero Theory says, I totally dig it. James Bacon says, this is awesome. Thank you. Oh, hey, Building Persephone. Good to see you. Good to see you. Hi, all. This is very cool. Mike Hansford says, totally wicked. I love it. The Last Phoenix says, this is damn good. Thank you. And the Vatican protecting the public from the horrors is an interesting idea. I really love that image of the monk at the Cipher machine, Zero Theory says. That Black Cipher intro got me very hyped. Okay, well, excellent. I'm glad. I am glad because I want to do one of those for each one of the worlds that we're doing. So I'm going to work on that, finish that one up today, and then also put out some more shorts on the Black Cipher channel. And then I'm going to go over and I'm going to try to do the same thing for Unspeakable Cults and try to push the tech a little bit further and see what we can do. Try to get, like, for each one of the worlds, 30 shorts and one intro video. Try to start with that, and then we'll just see what happens. So, all right. So that is what was going on over there. I'm glad people are excited about that. Hey, we do medieval rabbits. We do family-friendly, important stuff. We also do some dark and dreadful stuff. So, all right. Okay, let's go over. Oh, the Building Persephone says the Black Cipher video thumbs are creepy AF. Good job, LOL. Pan Smith says, is that all custom art? Yeah, it's custom. It's all AI generated, which is really cool because, like, that was my problem when I was doing Journey to the Tree of Sorrows. So I've been trying to solve this problem for a long time because we did the Journey to the Tree of Sorrows YouTube channel, which Journey to the Tree of Sorrows was David's world because he's a Lovecraftian horror artist. And so he would do the art for the channel. But it turns out that we just couldn't be generated fast enough. I could write things, but all of my scripts just sat there, and some of them were even professionally narrated. And they were all just sitting there. The art couldn't be done fast enough. Now, all of a sudden, that is completely swapped because now it took me longer to write that. Well, maybe not quite. But, I sat down, I wrote that, and then just in about the same amount of time was able to generate all of the art for it. So this is just the technology here. Yeah, it is AI art. The technology that is allowed for something like that to all of a sudden be created and to sit down and think, okay, this is what I want to write. This is what I want to get out. Now, how can I get this out in some kind of video format? So that's what I've been working on. Now, I want to push the technology because you can do things like projecting that art onto a 3D map so I can get camera motion and things like that. By the time I get to Theophany doing its intro video, I want to be working with the projected cameras and things like that. So I'm so excited about this technology. I want to push it in the creation of these worlds. Okay, so let's go over here to bring up Dark Sun. While we're sitting here talking about dark and terrible things, right? Let's go over here to Dark Sun. I love the world building. Somebody asked me, I love the storytelling. But it's a close tie between the world building and the storytelling. I do really enjoy the storytelling, like writing that world primer for the Tales of Rabivania we've been doing on Wednesdays. I'm really looking forward to doing the world primers for Theophany and Unspeakable Cults. We might end up having to do one for the Black Cipher. We just might. We will see. That's just the number of projects to do is stacking up. But that's just my life. Okay, so let's go over here and go to Psionics over here. Again, we are in the Dark Sun campaign setting. So this is the first box set released for the second edition of the game. And the purpose of investigating this was kind of like the Streisand effect, because we know this was the world that Kyle Brink had said he wasn't interested. He didn't, his word was problematic, that Wizards probably wasn't going to return to the Dark Sun world, even though it's very popular, because it has problematic content. And I was like, well, what's in it then? Because, okay, so what's in it here that this has specifically been called out as a title that Wizards of the Coast considers problematic now. Let's see. So Slight Wills says, I wonder if there will be a company that actually takes up a setting similar to Dark Sun to try to catch nostalgic fans. It seems like it might be a reasonable business thing to do. If Wizards of the Coast doesn't want to touch it, come back and stay true to what's going on in here with some more modern rules. It's a great setting. George says Psionics were part of first edition AD&D and appears to have been removed from the second edition core books. Yeah, they weren't in the second edition core books. I remember it from the complete Psionics handbook. What is SCP? I'm not sure. Stargate Mind says, I found a rare video on this that proved like 80 reasons Dark Sun was not lost. I rewrote all psionics from this area, removing the pronouns errors and the problems it says. The problem it says his, not they. Okay, let's take a look at psionics for a moment. We'll come back over to the comments in just 1 second. Psionics, from the lowliest slave to the most powerful sorcerer king, psionics pervade all levels of Athasian society. Virtually every individual has some mental ability, although in many, the true strength of their psionic potential remains unrealized. Each culture values its psionic members. To the raiding tribes, individuals with clairvoyance are especially useful for locating targets. The nomads, for example, value an individual who can pinpoint the band's position in the desert. Psionic powers are not always beneficial. They tend to be destabilizing and turbulent. They are always thieves who will use their psychokinesis to steal the property of a fellow tribesman, and power-hungry nobles who send assassins trained into psychometabolism to murder their rivals. Rebellious subjects can also find a use for nearly any psionic ability, and in seemingly peaceful villages, many sordid and disgraceful acts are carried out behind curtains of psionic deception. Considering the potential psionic offer powers for amassing power and wealth. I think that's an error. Considering the potential power that psionics offers for amassing power and wealth, it should not surprise you that most cities have at least one school devoted to the way of the mind. These schools are run by masters of the psionic arts, often with the stated purpose of helping the individual better understand his own potential and the responsibilities it entails. In reality, they are usually expensive academies for the sons and daughters of the wealthy, designed to develop the students' psionic powers to their full potential, with the explicit goal of gaining an advantage over their political rivals later in life. It is no wonder that, in many cities, such schools are carefully licensed by the Sorcerer King. Sometimes they're even banned altogether, though this merely forces the schools to disguise themselves and does nothing to eliminate them. Psionics has often been called the great equalizer in the brutal world of Athos, for it gives even the most physically weak individual a chance to compete and survive. If something can compensate for the gradual deterioration of the world's vital energies, it will be the power of the mind. And I never got to use psionics, so I think I just flipped through that one book once. Zero the Blade says, I feel that if you build a wonderful world, the story can fit it even better than you thought. Well, I think so. I like doing both, although I am mentally separating them, because that's why I started the Rabavania World Primer as just, this is the world building effort over here, and that just has to be mentally separate from the time I spend actually working on the primary story and the script. Because previously I had tied both of those things together in my mind. There's the world, there's just working on Rabavania or working on Theophany or working on something like that. But it's two different trains of thought, but they got to integrate. But I'm either in story writing mode or I'm in world building mode. Daniel says, Dark Sun seems to be a mash of Mad Max and fantasy, sword and sorcery. Didn't somebody say something about running something like, in order to run Dark Sun, do Mad Max fantasy or something like that? So yeah, I agree. Although I'm an outlier, I think the Dark Sun setting needs some polish, but not remove the dark grittiness of it. Yeah, don't remove that. That seems like integral to all of this. George says, just in my opinion, but Psionics is an early lead-in to every class casting spell, which is what we have now. To every class casting spells, which is what we have now. Yeah, and that's what makes sometimes... I was thinking about that when I was thinking about how to write the classes for the Tales of Rapavania. Because, like, you got to think of, like, basically ninth magic. It's not magic, but basically, right? Stargate Mind says, if you'd like, I would love to share the rewrite of the second edition Psionics adapted for 5e. It does not rely on PSP. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Oh, SCP is the setting about the organization that captures and contains different cryptids of all types. It has a rather large fandom. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. So magic is arguably the mightiest force in Athos. Those wielding it call firestorms out of the calm sky, change one object to another, or kill enemies with a mere gesture. They dictate the wills of entire mobs, make the dead walk, and have even been known to stop time. Magic can expose traitors, destroy rivals, and exact unquestioning obedience from subjects. It can also conceal secret activities, uncover the king's spies, be used to assassinate royal officers, and foster general rebellion. So magic can do a lot of damage here. Oh, the defilers. Life, energy, and magic. Casting a magical spell requires energy. The power for a spell must come from somewhere, and there are two means of fueling one's magical endeavors on Athos. One is harsh and destructive, furthering the downward spiral of life on our world. The other is positive and beneficial, halting the effects of this ecological entropy for a while. Those who employ the first type of magic are called defilers, while those who employ the latter variety are called preservers. So defilers learn to draw magic from the land, but not the art of replacing it. Because it is the latter aspect of magic that's the most difficult to master, they learn spells and advance their own art far more quickly than their counterparts. Defilers are a blight upon the world. They are the fiends who have destroyed Athos, and the reason that most decent folk, especially farmers and herders, will not take up arms to drive any wizard, or will take up arms to drive any wizard, defiler or not, from their midst. While the life energy of foliage is converted into magical spells, the soil in which the plants were growing becomes sterile. In most cases, it stays barren for decades. The spark of life can be returned to the ground through the hard work and tender care, but few people can afford to take the time required to do so. Whereas preservers reinvigorate the soil after they drain it to power their spells. As preservers learn their craft, they also learn to rekindle the spark of life. When they cast a spell, they replace what has been taken through a combination of natural and mystical processes, such as by working compost into the soil or by performing the rite of blood in the field they have drained. Preservers learn their spells and master the art more slowly than defilers, for they must learn to give as well as take. Unfortunately, preservers are scarce compared to defilers, and it is a rare person who understands the difference between the two. Yeah, we did say that every ruler on Wizard, their kings, is some type of spellcaster. So ordinarily a defiler. So what is the Veil? In most cities, there are secret leagues of preservers called the Veiled Alliance. Okay, line with the Harpers. Those AI can't figure out 4 fingers and a thumb. I feel like this is one of the early programming errors made during the initial research and development of the code. Like someone just said, humans have 5 fingers, and the machine had to be corrected and add a thumb, but then the error was buried and they couldn't get extracted. So now he has 6 fingers. They can do it now. I mean, fingers and hands are difficult for even humans to draw. I mean, that's very difficult for human beings to master as artists. There was a short time when the AI was having trouble with fingers. But if you're up with, like I was trying to watch what was coming out on the Stable Diffusion platform, like day by day. And so they can fix fingers now. That's been fixed. Now, it is not propagated, I don't think, out to more commercial software platforms yet. But no, the AI, we fixed the hand problem. Heath is unfamiliar with the SCP Foundation. I am. SCP is a wiki-like site that contains community-written articles on Lovecraft-adjacent entities and objects. Well, I'll just SCP Wiki. I won't go over it here, but okay. SCP Foundation, secure, contain, protect. I guess that's it. I'll check that out after the show. Okay, will do. I'll check that after this. Andrew says, seems like if you were a defiler, you might give yourself a better name to describe the class, like Master of Elements or something that seems more powerful and awe-inspiring. I do like the name Defiler, though. But you might not call yourself a Defiler. Okay, the worst Scourge and Sorcerer Kings. Let's see about that. So as bad as they are, Defilers are not the worst of Magic's blights. Compared to the Dragon, even Sorcerer Kings are babes toying with dimly understood gift. The Dragon wields sorcery powerful enough to crush entire cities, and so destructive we must measure the devastation caused by its spells in square miles. Anything that crawls or walks or flies trembles at the mere sight of the horrid beast, for the Dragon draws its magical energy from animal life. When it casts its spells, any creature for whom it draws energy collapses in on its tracks, dying before it hits the ground. In addition, the Dragon can store magical energy in its body for use at a later time. It gives it the freedom to use spells in even the most barren of wastes, and the incentive to roam over wide expanses of desert and search for food. Being a wanton user of magic, the Dragon, so there's just one dragon? The Dragon preys upon anything that they can feed its ravenous appetite for energy. When the horrid beast is about, caravans of withered corpses line the trading routes. Whole herds of desiccated Erdulus. I don't know that word. Erdlus. Well, maybe it's something that has to do with the world. I don't see it. I don't see it when I just look it up. Rest alongside their shepherds in blackened fields of dead salt brush. Entire villages lay smashed and flattened, the bodies of the inhabitants strewn about the streets like refuse. No society, from the smallest family of hunters to the largest, most crowded city-state, is safe from the Dragon. So each city-state is different. Its laws, customs, economy, architecture, and general culture varies according to the tastes of its city's rulers and the needs for basic survival. In austere Balak, where hungry giants raid semi-weekly, every citizen is skilled and fearless soldier. At the other extreme is decadent Tyr, where slaves outnumber citizens 2 to 1. Gulg can hardly be called a city at all, lacking a single stone building and standing hidden among a wall of thorny hedges and poisonous vines. Despite each city's unique character, however, they all respond to the rigors of barren Athos by organizing in the same general manner. Perhaps it is an accident of history, or perhaps survival mandates this type of organization. I don't pretend to know. All I can say is that this is what I have seen in my travels. Building Persephone says, hi, my name's Roger. I'm a Defiler. Defiler seems like a grave robber or something. Well, it could be. I hear that. I can definitely hear that word being used in that tone, especially with something like a ghoul or something like that. Does it matter what you call yourself if society as a whole calls you something else? Well, I don't know exactly who uses the term Defiler in here, but probably. Defiler just uses life energy to cast spells. They don't necessarily have to be evil. It's just hard not to be. Okay, so in Athos, there's only one fully developed dragon. So that's the dragon. Oh, okay. So so that was some type of creature in the world. So Erdlu are giant flightless birds used as herd animals. The Last Phoenix is asking some Stargate Mind is asking some questions about psionics. The Last Phoenix says, I've got some strong opinions on psychers and fantasy. So, abstaining. So the Sorcerer Kings. Each city is led by a king. He or she may be addressed as magnate in one place and vizier in another, but is always the absolute dictator of his subjects. Kings are at the top of the social order. They live near the center of the city in fortified palaces bustling with minor officials. When a potentate finds it necessary to leave his palace, He does so only with a great deal of preparation and pomp, well protected by magic and his full bodyguard. If this cannot be arranged, he will not leave, except in the most dire of emergencies. The last thing any king of Athos wants is to walk unprotected among his subjects. Almost without exception, every king is a powerful defiler who has risen to his position through the unprincipled use of magic and psionic abilities. All monarchs jealously guard the use of magic and employ a sizable force of Templars whose sole duty is to ferret out and execute unauthorized preservers. In every city that I have visited, the kings are especially anxious to infiltrate agents into the Veiled Alliance, as an organization of preservers presents a viable challenge to their magical power base. Every king uses his magic to prolong his life, and most have reigned for hundreds of years. Many have reigned for more than 1,000 years, and one or two are even credited with the founding of their ancient cities. The king is sometimes considered his city's deity. His priests force the citizens to build temples to the king and lead them in pompous ceremonies of worship. Sometimes the nobles and a few wealthy citizens consider the king their benefactor. Never, however, are other classes misled by such pretensions. The merchants see the king for what it is, a center of political and magical power that must be appeased if they are to continue their commerce in his city. If the ranks of slaves see the king as a god, it is certainly as an evil and corrupt one that keeps them in bondage and makes a misery of their lives. In return for his exalted position and unlimited authority, the king has the duty to administer justice, protect the citizens from famine and crime, and safeguard the city from external attack. In practice, these gluttonous monarchs spend most of their effort protecting their power base and seeing to their own comfort. Justice tends to be self-serving and arbitrary, and the king's agents are so corrupt that they often ignore crime altogether, providing the criminal pays them in a large cash bribe. All kings take the matter of famine seriously, however. When a city's population starves, one or two things happen. A terrible revolt breaks out, and disease and pestilence runs rampant through the city streets. In either case, the slave population plummets. Untended fields go barren, fortifications fall into disrepair, and the city grows weak. Therefore, most kings take quick and decisive action when famine begins. They raise armies to go to another city-state, steal its food, and replenish their supply of slaves. Because starting a war is the typical response to the city's internal problems, I've never heard of a sorcerer king who did not take the matter of security from external attacks seriously. All kings maintain standing armies. They usually have some large defensive project under construction, and I've heard they devote most of their magical research to developing spells to fend off enemy armies. In fact, most cities are so well defended that it's impossible to criticize any sorcerer king on this basis. No, there's spoilers about the dragon in here. These sorcery kings make for a great high-level play. It probably would. Stargate Mind says, this topic makes my day better. Thanks, Heath. Well, thank you for being here. I'm glad. It's making my day better, too. I'm really enjoying this. I'm glad this was Dark Sun was recommended, because I didn't know anything about it. Okay, so Templars are the clergymen devoted to the Sorcerer King of their city. Like other priests, they are granted spells in return for their worship. Unlike true priests who draw power from the elemental forces of the world, Templars tap into the magical forces of their Sorcerer King. When a Templar beseeches his monarch for a spell, the Sorcerer King grants the request by employing his own magical energy to power the Templar's magic. Because of the strain this places on both the Sorcerer King and the surrounding land, young Templars do not ask for or receive many spells. As close personal servants of the Sorcerer King, however, high-ranking Templars have greater access to magic than one might expect. These greedy Templars dominate the king's bureaucracy. Although each city organizes its agencies differently, every bureaucracy is steeped in ancient traditions designed to promote the organization's welfare and keep it tied closely to the monarch. Templar bureaus tend to be permeated by extradimensional treachery and embroiled in internal political intrigues with other agencies of the city's bureaucracy. As agents of their monarch's will, Templars are feared and despised by common city dwellers with good reason, if you ask me. These priests abuse their positions steadily, enforcing the king's edicts with spiteful indifference, taking bribes, and dealing out unjust punishments for anyone who objects. Generally, complaints about the bureaucracy's corruption falls on deaf ears, for the Templars are any sorcerer king's best means of maintaining a stranglehold on the population. Templars are the guardians of reading and writing. Because knowledge is power, and the most efficient way of passing on knowledge is through writing, no one but Templars and nobles are permitted to read and write. Oh, interesting. One of the most sacred duties of the Templar bureaucracy is to prevent the knowledge of this art from spreading beyond their own ranks and that of the nobility. Most kings have authorized them to execute on the spot anyone demonstrating any knowledge of these critical skills. Templars are commonly recruited from the offspring of other Templars or from the ranks of freemen. Technically, a member of the nobility may also join the king's bureaucracy, but most aristocrats consider such positions beneath their honor. Let's see what's going on with the nobility. The nobles control the farms and water of the cities. Usually, each noble family picks up a senior member to sit on the parliamentary council. In theory, these councils act as advisory bodies to the monarchs, but in reality, they are little more than administrative bodies through which the king passes his commands to the aristocracy. It is not rare, however, for the interests of the nobles to be opposed to those of the Templars and the kings. On such occasions, the advisory councils sometimes find the courage to voice their opposition. When this happens, a flurry of political assassinations usually follow. Most people assume these assassinations are carried out by the Templars or on their own initiative or at the king's request. Though the nobles sometimes gather the courage to oppose the Templars or even the king, don't make the mistake of believing that they have their best interest of the city population at heart. As a class, they are interested only in preserving their hereditary land rights, and they form the largest block of slave owners in any city. No matter how opposed the nobles might be to the king's policies, they can always be counted on to protect the city, as invasion would strip them of their landed rights. For this reason, every family is allowed to maintain a standing army of slave soldiers, with the young men of the family serving as officers. In an emergency, the king can freely call upon these armies to supplement his own troops. As you might expect, nobles sometimes turn their armies on each other or the Templars, but never the Sorcerer King. The king's magic is usually more than sufficient to deal with the use of force, and any family foolish enough to challenge him in such an obvious fashion suffers terrible consequences. Like the Templars, the nobles are permitted to read and write, and they're usually equally vigilant about protecting this critical secret. The Last Phoenix says, now that's some efficient way to keep the authoritarian rule. Keep the subjects illiterate. Stargate Mind says, during COVID, I linked the death and resurrection of the god Tyr to the city of Tyr and the 9 swords of Tyr from Dark Sun. It included dragon hunting, trips to the plains, and other worlds. Oh, that's an interesting tie-in. Yeah, probably. I didn't think about that with the god, the similarity, or the same name with the god and the city. Okay, Freeman. Let's look at that. So, put simply, Freeman are citizens of the city, because I suppose a lot of PCs might be this. Put simply, Freeman are citizens of the city who are not owned by the king, the Templars, or the nobility. By virtue of their birth status, they have the right to reside within the protection of its walls, and theoretically at least, to enjoy the benefits of its laws. But if a freeman cannot pay his debts, exhibits knowledge of reading, writing, or magic, or undertakes some other forbidden activity, he is judged to be in violations of the king's edicts. The Templars have the right to, and almost certainly will, seize him and sell him into slavery. This practice is the source of a considerable income to many Templars. The bulk of freemen who are craftsmen and artisans who keep their shops. The bulk of freemen are craftsmen and artisans who keep their shops within city walls. Heavily taxed by the king and harnessed by the corrupt Templars, they are generally ill-contented and suspicious, but too cowardly to intimidate, to openly resist their tormentors. Too cowardly and intimidated to openly resist their tormentors. Less common of the class of freemen are the clerics. Clerics are priests who worship the elemental planes. We said we do have elemental magic in this. And draw their magical energies from them. If their devotion allows them to live in cities, they make a nice living by selling their services as healers or workers of minor miracles. Templars tend to regard these true priests with suspicion and animosity, though most have learned that it is wiser not to harass a cleric. Oh, Elvin. Okay, let's see what I'm just going to go on. I'm interested. Good morning, Vanessa. Hey, Vanessa, I did get your email. I've got to send stuff out to you. I saw you said that. I've got you, Vanessa. I've been behind on email. If anybody's emailed me recently, I got to go through email this afternoon. Keeping a slave and serf population illiterate is a means that has been used to keep them in line by societies throughout history. Well, like I said, so far, I haven't exactly found, and of course, as a percentage basis, we haven't looked too much into the whole thing. But so far, what I'm reading, exactly what is problematic content here? I mean, it does talk about keeping slaves. Is that what's problematic? I mean, maybe we'll get into some other stuff, but so far, I'm not seeing anything that's, I mean, I don't know what the situation here is. I'm not seeing anything that I'm uncomfortable with having in a fantasy world. But Sable Phoenix says, that's the problem with avoiding problematic content. You're just an ostrich hunting, putting your head in the sand. Human history is problematic. Pretending it doesn't exist doesn't magically make it go away. Dark Sun is awesome because it doesn't shy away from either the existence of totalitarianism and oppression or its dire consequences. You think that's pretty much it? Like the existence of slavery? Like I thought, you see, that's pretty weak to me. If it's like the existence of slavery in a fantasy world, you can't do that. Just the mere existence of it is something that you can't do. That seems pretty lame to me. But maybe there are other things too. I had another thought on that, but I don't remember what it was. Hi, Nico. Good morning. You know, the Athenian polis was a religious cult where people worshipped Athena as their goddess. The city in itself was a religion. Understanding this one thing often missing from these kinds of games. Well, you're talking about religion in general. I think we often, now whether or not you want the religion to be in a fantasy world is something else. But I think that we probably often misunderstand by discounting the importance. So we discount the importance of religion generally in life in the past anyway, because I'm here in the United States. I'm here in the South where we're typically more religious anyway. But even here, I mean, how much does religion influence our day-to-day life? Well, none, but for most people, not very much. But I don't think that's been the case historically. I mean, I think this is an anomaly. So if you don't, I think we probably or underestimate the impact of religion. And so we probably do that in our fantasy worlds as well. Now, fantasy world can be whatever you want it to be, but incorporating the religious element and its impact on the population, I think is probably not done as often as it could be. Now, that could also be something that has an influence from Tolkien, because you don't see like obvious religious practices, which is interesting, in things like Rohan and Gondor and things like that. They don't talk about like the religion and priests and things like that. So it could also be that it came from, well, it just wasn't done that way in The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. So maybe it didn't stick as always. Someone correct me. Didn't they change the lore and rhyme of the Frost Maiden so the city didn't have a history of slavery? I don't know anything about it. Somebody might do that. Blast Phoenix says, that's stupid if that's it. I expect many players would love to fight against the slavery in the fantasy world as chaotic good characters. Yeah, like because its presence alone isn't any kind of like moral statement or something. Oh, what I was thinking, or the comment that I was going to make was that when I was talking to Ajit George, who did the Radiant Citadel, he was talking about how he had deliberately wanted to make that a utopian society, a fragile utopia society. But he's the one who said, I read someplace that he was interested in returning to Dark Sun. So I would be interested to know what he thinks about this, given what he thinks about that, given his interest, and what he would then change. How would he modernize this? It would be an interesting discussion, probably. David Sims says, my understanding is that big companies are reluctant to promote things that include references to slavery because it scares off advertisers more than anything. See, this is the opening for the Geek Underground, right? Talking about corporate geekdom, how generally we've gotten some fantastic things out of corporate geekdom, especially early on. We've gotten some fantastic things, but how today I'm kind of skeptical of it. So, but the underground geekdom can do those kinds of things. Nico says they do have a king in Gondor, and the king is the high priest. It's an ancestor worship cult. My point was that you can read The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and religion and things like that are not as prevalent, even as they are in something like the Forgotten Realms and Dungeons and Dragons, where you actually have priests and clerical magic and have the religion. So merchants. Every city serves as the headquarters for at least a half a dozen merchant houses, and several times that number maintain trading emporiums within the city walls. Usually these trading emporiums are located in a particular quarter of town where a purchaser can buy nearly anything that Athos has to offer if he knows where to look. Merchants are not citizens, for the nature of their work dictates that they maintain contact with a wide variety of societies, which makes our Sorcerer Kings distrustful. Instead, merchants are granted long-term licenses to reside within a city, and in return, they donate large sums of money to public works, i.e. to the Sorcerer King. Merchants are one of the few classes that the bureaucrats are careful not to harass. The Templars have learned that if they try to intimidate or blackmail one merchant, they'll find that everything they wish to buy from other merchants has inexplicably doubled in price or vanished from the market. Technically, merchants are not permitted to read and write, but they are allowed to keep accounts. I should note that most houses have highly developed methods of keeping accounts. For all practical purposes, most merchants can both read and write in the secret language of their houses. Not surprisingly, jealous Templars spend a considerable amount of energy trying to prove to the king that keeping of accounts is, in fact, a form of reading and writing. For additional information on this subject, I've included a more complete description of the section entitled Merchant Houses Later. So elven merchants. I've been thinking, I forgot, we also have the demi-human races here. So what do we have with elven merchants? Some elven tribes earn their livelihoods as traders. Usually they are less established than the merchant houses, so they sell their wares in crowded bazaars located at the edge of the true merchant quarter. Elves have a reputation for smuggling and selling banned goods, such as spell components. By the way, if you expect a merchant to guarantee his product, it's best not to buy from an elf. Well, here we actually have a section on slaves and gladiators. So it's a short section on slaves. Slaves. A person can become a slave in one of three ways: by being born a slave, by being captured during a war or other armed conflict, or by being sold into slavery for committing some crime or failing to pay one's debts. A member of any race or social class can become a slave, though nobles and merchants usually have friends or family who will buy their freedom for them. It's also rare for elemental clerics or mages to become slaves, as they can usually escape easily. Instead of selling such individuals into bondage, prudent Templars simply execute them when they capture them. We can take one bit of solace from the institution of slavery, however, that there are a surprising number of former Templars in their ranks. The losers of political infighting in the king's bureaucracy are often sold into slavery. Templar slaves are generally the subject of abuse and ridicule by their new established peers, and generally die quickly as a result of some tragic accident. There are several classes of slaves. Oh, we got different. So here, gladiators, artists, soldiers, laborers, and farmers are all slaves. At its core, this desire to make everything non-problematic is postmodernist relative perspective that there isn't anything like objective evil. I don't know if Sable Phoenix says we can't have evil people. They're just misunderstood or unenlightened or something. I don't know if you have seen this, and I do want to actually maybe on a Crafter's Corner here. I guess we're going to have a Crafter's Corner tonight, because I've still got to finish painting up these miniatures that are still cluttering up my desk here, because I got to finish this so I can get these paints off my desk. And then that way we can also go on and start shooting some board game shows. So on the channel, I did take a deep dive into the philosophy of orcishness, the nature of orcishness, and kind of trace the developments of orcs and orcishness from their pre-Tolkien origins to what they are today. And you're basically seeing what you're talking about right here. They started off as demonic. We've talked about that. And now the common conceptualization of orcs is that they are just people. And what does that say? I'm primarily interested in that topic because of what that says about our society's changing relationship with evil. I'm not really as concerned so much. I mean, it's fun to look at perhaps for the history of gaming or something, but okay, I'm not so concerned about, okay, let's just say the orcs can be of any alignment or whatever, and we're going to have good orcs too. Okay, I mean, different worlds will have different rules. But what I think is most interesting is how that documents the society's changing relationship with evil. Slight Quill says it feels like corporate influence is overly sanitizing the game. Whereas Dark Sun right here says doesn't shy away from the fact that some people, institutions, etc. are indeed evil. David Sims, that's what happens when corporations own the games. And it tends to support small creators. And as all these properties tend to aggregate into larger and larger entities. Stargate Mind says, an RPG can have a simple solution. A disclaimer, this fantasy role-playing game does not represent or endorse any human experiences on planet Earth. Well, you know, when we were looking at the Book of Vile Darkness, we looked at the Book of Vile Darkness, did an extensive series on that, and Monty Cook actually had a disclaimer in there saying that he doesn't support being evil. Right? In there for the book. George says, disclaimers don't mean anything. Even the appearance of being non-inclusive alienates some segments of your customer base. And that doesn't even have to be true with the internet these days. Yeah, see, for me, I don't have a problem with something like the movie rating system. You know, but that's purpose is different than, I think, what we're talking about here. Sable Phoenix says, the edgy stuff in D&D was all made when the entire scene was an indie scene. Corporations make everything into pablum in an attempt to appeal to the widest demographic. Yeah, it's several videos. If you let me actually, I'll find that. It should be pretty easy. Well, over here. Well, my internet's running slow. Orcs and orcishness. Geekverse. Yeah, so like, for instance, this timeline part 1. Here's a link right here. Part 1 on orcs. Watch this, or that's the name, rather. You can check it out after this, after the show. So there's the link to it. That's part 1. There's a part 2 of the timeline as well. And then I've also asked that question to some of my guests. Like, for instance, I was talking to Lou Anders about when I interviewed him about orcs and evil too. So there's a part 2 timeline, but then also talking to Lou about orcs. So yeah, you can find part 1, part 2, and that on the channel. Let's see. Society's relationship with evil hasn't changed, just its perception of evil, much to evil's benefit. Oh, that's I like that. See, James is Sable Phoenix is also here. Society's relationship with evil hasn't changed, just its perspective on evil. Yes, that's a much better way to say that. That's what I meant to say, should have said. So society's changing perspective on evil. Yes. Zero Theory says, you know, I'm okay with D&D being the Disney of fantasy RPGs now, just to be family friendly. And then once they're hooked, we'll swoop in with OSR and all of that. Hey, Vision. Yeah, this has been a good one. This has been a good one. Hey, I released I was showing off a preview of a Black Cipher intro video. People tend to like that at the beginning of the stream. You ought to check it out. Yeah, D&D being the Disney fantasy, but so we got to get back to some indie creators. But, you know, I wish they would just say that. You know, that's what I would appreciate, like when Kyle Brink was saying, well, Dark Sun is problematic. This is problematic. Just, you know, a much more straightforward thing to say would be something like the direction that we want to take Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, they own it. It's there. It's Wizards of the Coast. The direction that we want to go with Dungeons and Dragons is to turn it into more like a family-friendly Marvel franchise that everyone can participate in and make it its own brand like that. And so as a result, there are some of the darker, grittier aspects of previous worlds or the real world or whatever that we just don't feel comfortable with and are not going to be dealing with engaging with as the brand anymore as we move in this new direction. Something like that. Then was off the cuff. But something like that's a much more direct statement about, like, then you don't have to like it. You can say, oh, well, that sucks. You don't have to like it, but nobody has to do anything anyway. It's just that at least then they're being direct and are not trying to give the, this material is problematic. It's problematic. Which is trying to say everything and nothing. John Schwartz says, I think orcs started out as supernatural and gradually became seen as naturally occurring species. Supernatural beings can be evil, but nature doesn't create evil things. Yeah, I from my documentation on the timeline, it seems like orcs were originally directly connected with the demonic, that orcs are demons. But gradually they've lost that demonic element and become a species that's basically exactly like humans, except for they have like tusks, smaller tusks or fangs or something like that, and different color skin or something. And I think that part of that has occurred because of gaming. Because, okay, if people want to play orcs, do you really want to play something demonic and evil? I mean, probably not. I mean, in some cases, when people are talking about doing evil campaigns or something, maybe. But generally, especially if you've got a game with a reputation for being satanic anyway, are you going to have players actively play something that's demonic? Well, maybe softening the orcs was, if people are going to be playing these, people want to play them, let's soften them. Same thing with tieflings. I brought up tieflings with Cameron Pashaw. If you haven't seen my conversation about good and evil with Cameron Pashaw, that was a fantastic conversation. You can watch the whole thing here on this channel. And then also we had a conversation about rewatched and had a conversation on that about the Crafter's Corner as well. And I specifically brought up tieflings as well. I didn't study tieflings with orcs, but I think they are instructive as well, because there you're actually, I forget whether it's demonic or infernal, but whatever. For this perspective, same difference. You're actively of demonic ancestry or infernal ancestry. So what does that mean if you're a demon? Well, what it means is just that you look cool, right? It's just a way to be cool. You get horns, you get a cool color skin, you get neat color eyes, you get a tail. I guess that's why people like playing them, right? Because even though, so what's our relationship then with something that's infernal and demonic? Well, our relationship is the belief that, hey, it just gives you something that's cool. It's just something that makes you cool. And I'm saying all that as observation. Whether or not you think that's good, bad, or have other judgment, we can talk about later. But I think that's a very relevant observation to society. Zero the Blade says, I remember a webcomic about an orc trying to be a peaceful farmer and an elf queen having other plans for him. Let's go. I'm going to come back to the comments because it's been a good conversation. But let's go over here and look at gladiators. Because we've been going for an hour. But let's look at a little bit more here. How much time have we got? Or how much? Okay, so there's still a lot more to say here. But I want to look at gladiators. And gladiators and artists. Let's see what gladiators and artists are within the slave class. The wealthiest Templars and most noble families maintain stables of men and women picked and trained for their fighting prowess. These slaves are sent to fight in the gladiatorial stadiums for public entertainment. Their owners, sitting in private boxes perched high above the arenas, often wager considerable sums on the outcome of these battles. More than one noble has been sold into slavery for not being able to pay the debts he incurred when his favored gladiator fell. The best of these gladiators are mules. Mule. Okay, mules. I believe that's the way you do that when you've got the two dots above it. Somebody brought these up, so this is what these are. I didn't know that word, so here we go. So the best of these gladiators are mules, a tough crossbreed of human and dwarf. They retain the height, dexterity, and cunning intelligence of their human side, but are also gifted with the durability and strength of their dwarven parent. From their dwarven line, they also inherit a single-mindedness, which makes them vicious fighters. Standing over 6 feet tall, mules weigh 200 to 300 pounds, have hairless, coppery skin as tough as a gith hide, and tend toward introspective, gruff dispositions. They are born sterile and cannot reproduce their own kind. Despite their combat abilities, mules don't make good soldiers. In addition to being expensive to buy or breed, mules are intelligent enough to recognize when their officers are making a mistake and stubborn enough to refuse foolish orders. But they will fight in gladiatorial pits. Artists. In most Ephesian cities, The arts are appreciated, but not as highly regarded as many feel they should be. Although Templars and nobles alike enjoy being surrounded by artistic creations, none of them would ever trouble to create such a thing themselves. Therefore, all arts are entrusted to slaves. One of the best ways for a slave to elevate his position is to develop and demonstrate some sort of artistic ability, such as singing, reciting poetry, painting, sculpting, and so forth. If he or she has enough talent, a noble or Templar will purchase the slave and treat him to a life of pampered luxury. In exchange, the owner expects the slave to produce beautiful works which will impress his friends. I must note that because of the dubious tastes of nobles and Templars, many artists must compromise their artistic vision in order to stay alive. In most cities, it's common practice to secretly teach valued slaves the art of reading and writing, so they may read the words of the masters and record their own observations for their own next of kin. This is how I came by the art myself. For the artists, there's only one drawback to this privilege. Popularity is a fickle thing, and most artists fall out of favor within a few years of their success. When that happens, those who have been taught how to read and write suffer one of two fates. Their owners either has them executed for knowing how to read and write, or they are sent to the gladiatorial pits as fodder. It's no wonder that many artists, upon sensing their popularity beginning to wane, plan elaborate escapes and flee to the desert as I did. Let's say soldier slaves. Both Sorcerer Kings and noble houses maintain standing armies of slave soldiers. The quality of these soldiers varies wildly. In most cases, they are simply burly slaves who have been taken from the fields, equipped with some manner of weaponry, and then taught to fight as a unit. To keep the soldiers in line, officers rely on a combination of privileged treatment and harsh punishments. The best armies of the noble houses are selected as infants, removed from their parents and raised by officers. During their harsh childhoods, these children learn two things: to be loyal to their owning family and to fight without regard for themselves. In order to ensure that the armies of their nobility are not a threat to their own power, many Sorcerer Kings raise armies of half-giants. This powerful race was created by the magical crossbreeding of humans with giants, and their strength can put even powerful mules to shame. To oversee these half-giant troops, the monarchs rely on hand-picked Templar officers who use their magical abilities to keep the brutes in line. Noble houses never use half-giant soldiers, for they lack the magic necessary to keep such troops under control. All right, let me come back over here to the chat. Nico says, in LOTR, orcs embody evil at the human level. Take that meaning away, and people can't relate to evil. Ask them, and they won't know what evil is. That's the role they play in the story. Oh, well, no problem. There is a lot of other things like that on the channel that have been here. I hope that you enjoy it. We'll talk more about that on one of the Crafters Corner tonight. Sable Phoenix says, it's like G.K. Charles Chesterton said, fairy tales do not tell children that dragons exist. Children already know that dragons exist. Fairy tales tell children that dragons can be killed. Lots of discussion over here on evil and the evil and savagery. Well, let's see. Jose says there's also a cultural problem with the definition of evil. Even between cultures as close as two European countries, you will find disagreements on the general understanding of evil among them. George says the non-evil started with the drow, as I recall. Now, they did talk about drow as well when I was noticing in Wizards of the Coast material, when it was revising orcs and things like that, it did talk about the drow as well. And the tieflings, but the drow was also one of them. Mark Hansford says there is an orc bard in Hero Quest now. Oh, you're right. You're right. So how does an orc feel about attacking orcs? It's made for some interesting conversation during the game session. Slight Quill says, I think initially players wanted to play monsters because they were more powerful than the PC races. Maybe, as Slight Quill says, that may be the case in 2nd edition. Also, I explored it from the tabletop war gaming side too, with Warhammer. So if you're doing a fantasy armies, hey, somebody may want to play the Dark Lord and play the orcs or the goblins, and there were evil armies in Warhammer. But also in Warhammer, the orcs lost their designation as purely evil, right? They may be evil, but they're like created beings. They spring, especially in 40K, they spring from spores and things like that. So they're not human, and you don't have to worry about killing them. Vision says, when I hear the word problematic, I automatically think some woke excuse for something someone doesn't like. Nico says, hasn't there been an increased desire from players to play evil races in RPGs, more evil classes and the like? It's a bit weird. Of course, I don't have numbers on that, but I would say yes, because there's been an increase, like the half orcs to the orcs and the tieflings and things like this. There has to be, I would have to say there has to be some kind of increase, but that doesn't necessarily mean that people want to deal with the evil side. Like I said, so you don't actually, you can be the infernal thing or you can be the orc, but you don't have to deal with any negative consequences of that. Yeah, I think we should look at tieflings sometime. Yeah, a setting with half dwarves. I wasn't expecting that. Right, yeah. Slightquill says, because they're bred eugenics. That's why mules are considered problematic. Though Slightquill says, would be a great way to illustrate how evil someone is by engaging in the breeding of intelligent species. I almost said something about that. Many artists compromise their artistic vision to stay alive. I was like, well, that just sounds like a lot of artists in the world. a lot of artists have to compromise their artistic vision to stay alive. That's just true. It says that statement is problematic because it's the damn red pill. So, oh, yeah, Mike, please do. Let me drop that. Did I put the Ravenkeep Discord server in here? If you are here and you'd like to be part of the Ravenkeep Discord server, I would love to have you. So let me put that over here. Ravenkeep Discord server. Thank you, Mike, for reminding me. So Paul says, mules are a mixed race with mule comparisons, which was easily compared with mulatto, an outdated term of someone who is mixed race, with mule comparisons often used as an insult in the U.S. Sable Phoenix says, tieflings were never automatically evil, just had more of a tendency to be so because of their fiendish blood. I do remember the reverse dungeon. I never played it, but I remember that being out there. George says, alcohol use exploded during Prohibition. Alcohol was forbidden. People wanted it more, and people wanted it more, and more people wanted it. Maybe that's what's happening with the underground here, the geek underground, with things like that. All right, so what is going on here? I've got to run. We have gone a little bit of overtime. I was going to talk about productivity, which I would typically like to start doing at the end of these more often, but I have actually got to run. I've got something that is coming in here, but I have really enjoyed this. So tonight we will be having a Crafter's Corner, because I'm going to try to, I don't know if I'll finish them, but I'm going to paint up stuff tonight. So we have our Thursday night live stream. So I'll be here. We'll be discussing some topic. I'm not sure which topic we've got. It'll be one of the next table talks. It could be our talking about the state of fandom. Could be. We will see. We will have that coming up. So that will be tonight. Tomorrow we'll probably do more Dark Sun. We'll probably be here in the morning for more Dark Sun. And then we'll also do a Friday night live stream as well. So lots of stuff going on. Do also go over to the Black Cipher YouTube channel, because I'm going to finish up that intro and then post that over to the Black Cipher. There's a place to talk about the Black Cipher in the Discord server. So that will probably come out. There is another short coming out today at 1:30 p.m. Central Time on the Black Cipher. But then hopefully maybe this evening before our live stream, I'll be able to post that intro video, and we will see what happens. I think it'll be fun if we make like 30 of the shorts and then one intro video for all 4 of the different worlds, and then we can track here on the Morning Grind, seeing which ones become more popular, which ones get the more subscribers, which ones get the most views. What does it actually take to get some views? Like which videos end up getting views, which don't? Maybe that tells us something about YouTube algorithms or something like that. I think it will. I think it could be fun. So we'll start with the Black Cipher, then I'll move on to the Unspeakable Cults and do something with Cthulhu. So. All right, everybody. It has been fantastic. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning. You all give me energy always. I love doing the Morning Grind with everybody. So I will see you later on. And then everybody be productive, be creative, and grind on.